Hello guys, in this tutorial we will start writing the code for our app, and the first thing to start with is to set up the theme. So before that we need to think about the requirements. In order to get started, we need to be aware of a few things. The theme state, for example, needs to be saved somewhere so that when the user closes the app and open it again, the last applied theme will be fetched and applied. Also, we need to be aware that the theme will not affect only one screen, it will affect our whole app. So we need to find a way to do that, and here comes the state management importance. In this tutorial, I will cover a little bit of the state management, so it might not be clear enough for you to understand it. But don't worry, later on in the course, there will be a full section about state management and everything will be clearly explained. Now let me show you this diagram. And this is simplify the state management. So we have this value in here. We need to ask ourselves who needs it exactly. If most of the widgets or some widgets require this value, we need to do app-wide state management. And if one single widget needs this value, we can just manage the value in the same file, so no app-wide state management needed. Perfect. Now let me show you something. This is actually in here a brand new project. So this is why I have the app that comes with Flutter. So first of all, let me delete this and get rid of this. And I will create a new folder. I will name it screens. And then in this folder, I will initialize a new file called home_screen.dart. And then I will initialize a stateless widget and import the material app, and in here this should be scaffold, just like this. Perfect. Now this file needs to be called in here, and I will hit save. Of course it will not work, we need to hard restart it because we imported this file, and here it is. So now let's start implementing the code for it. First, I will delete these comments also, and I will show you something for this theme data. It has a lot of arguments. In our case, we will need few things. For example, the scaffold background color is very important to change the background color. So if we check in the main app in here, the user will be able to change the color with one button. And as you can see, it affected our whole app, and the scaffold background color is similar in all the screens. Okay, so in here I will choose the colors.red, for example, hit save. The changes directly appeared in here. So let's find a way in order to change this color dynamically. So if it's light color, we need to show him red color, for example, or any other color. And if it's dark, we need to show another color. For that, I will initialize a boolean in here. So I will name it as dark, put it equal to false, like this. And then we can do a check about this boolean. If it's false, for example, let's show colors.amber color. Hit save. No changes will appear, of course, and this is, as you can see, it's darker than this one because this if statement is always false. If we put it to true, this one become a little bit darker, hit save, and the amber color appeared. Now it will be very annoying to add a lot of colors in the main.dart file, so we can grab this code and put it in another file. So for that, I will create a new file which is named consts, but I will create a new folder first. I will name it also consts. And actually I will name this theme data better .dart, like this. And to not waste time on this, I will just copy it and paste it in here. So what happened in this class is that I initialized a class named styles, and then we initialized our theme data in here. Just simple as that. And this is actually a method where it takes a boolean. So as you saw before, because it's depending on this value, so of course we need a boolean value to be passed. Perfect. And this context is being used for this button color in here. So that's why we need to pass it. If we don't use this one, we don't need the context, but I will keep it. Perfect. So this style color can be used now instead of this theme data in here. So let's say styles, make sure to import it, and then call the theme data. And in here, we need to pass in a boolean. In our case, I will just put it true now. Now, if we restart the application, so the changes directly appeared on the screen, and I will get rid of this debug banner in here. So in here, just say debug banner check and put it to false, like this. Perfect. So now you know how to manage the theme. So let's go to the next step. Next step will be to save the boolean file value somewhere in the user phone. Why did we choose the user phone? It's because it's not an important value. We don't care if it's being compromised or something, and we don't need to make the user wait a lot in order to fetch this value and apply the theme. So in order to start working about that, we need a library or package called shared preference. So to do that, we need to go to the browser and search in here, or go to a website called pub.dev, then search for shared preference. And here it is, the second one appeared. And of course, it's Flutter favorite and it's null safety support. So go to this link, go to the installing tab, and then we copy this value in here, or you can copy this comment and put it in your terminal. But in my case, I will just go to the pubspec.yaml file, and in here under this Cupertino icons need to be pasted in here like this, because the indentation matters, so be careful. Now you hit save, Ctrl S, in order to this package is being installed. Okay, or you can open the terminal and run this command, flutter packages get, like this, and it will install the packages for you. Now there's another package that it is required. So again, we go to the pub.dev, and in here now we need to search for the package that we need to use it for the state management. And in this course, I will cover the provider state management. The provider state management is also Flutter favorite, and it's highly recommended from the Flutter team. So that's why I like to use it. So just like we did for the shared preference package, we go back to the pubspec.yaml file and we paste it in here. Now hit save, and then we can start working with the shared preference. In order to do that, I will create a new folder named services, and then I will initialize a new file and call it dark theme underscore preference, or just prefs, like this. And of course it should be .dart, like this. Now let's initialize a new class called also dark theme preferences, or prefs, as you like. I would name it like this. And now we need a setter method and getter method. In order to do that, let's initialize a new method called setDarkTheme. And in here we need to pass in a boolean value, because as I showed you, we manage the theme state by a boolean. So in here I will name it value. And the first thing we need to do is to initialize the shared preference. So shared preference, like this. And I will name it prefs. You can name it whatever you want. And in here we call also the shared preference and then get instance like this. Now I still getting an error. If we hover in here, it's actually a future. So we need to deal with future things. In order to do that, we just need to add a async keyword in here and await this one. Later on, we will heavily use the async await keywords. So don't worry about it. Perfect. Now we need to use this prefs in order to set our theme. So in here, as you can see, there is many methods. In our case, we need this method, which is the set bool. I choose this one, the boolean one, because our value is boolean. So in here, we need to pass in a key, and we need to pass in a value. The value already passed from this method. So in order to initialize the key, we need to define it outside because it will be used for the getter and the setter. So static const, I will call it like this, and in here choose theme status, I will name it like this, and then copy this and I will choose this is as a key. You can name it whatever you want in here, but I will just choose this one. Now we need to write a method to get the theme value. For that, let's initialize a future. It will be of type boolean, like this, and I will name it in here get theme. Now still making an error. This one should be small, but still making an error in here because it's missing return statement. So once I add return in here, the error is gone, as you can see. Perfect. Now we need to initialize this shared preference, so I will copy it from here, paste it here, and of course we need to add a async keyword like this, and for the return statement we need to call the prefs, and there is another method to get the values, which is called get boolean. We need to give it the key. The key is this one, where we set it already in here. So just like this, but still making an error. Now the error is a little bit hard to catch, but the error simply because we don't have an initial value for this boolean. It might be false or it might be true. So we need to do a null check. We can do it just like this, and we can return false, which is we return the light theme by default, and if you want the dark theme, you can put it to true. Simple as that. Now we're done with the shared preference. So we need to use this file in the provider class, and I'll show you why. So let's start working with the provider class. In order to do that, I will create a new folder called provider, and then new file. I will name it dark underscore theme underscore prefs or provider, sorry, like this, .dart. And in here, we need to define a new class, and I will name it dark theme provider, like this. Now, our main purpose of using this provider is actually to keep listening. So we need to use this package, the provider package. So let's come back, and in here, we use the with keyword, and there's something called change notifier. This change notifier will always keep listening to the changes. Or we need to tell him to listen to the changes, and it will become clear enough later on in the course. I mean, after a few seconds, actually. So let's get started. I will initialize a boolean value, and I will name it dark theme and put it equal to false initially. And then we need to create a getter. So in here, let's initialize a get, and I will name it get dark theme. And in our case, it will return the upper value, which is the dark theme, like this. Now we need to initialize a setter, just like we did for this file. We initialized a getter and setter. So in here, set, and I will name it set dark theme like this, and we need to pass in a Boolean value, and you know why already. And the first thing we need to do is to change this dark theme value. So we put this dark theme equal to the value like this, and then we need to save this value in the shared preference. So we need to initialize this class also in the provider. So we can do it like this. You can name this whatever you want, but I will name it like this. And then we initialize it like this. And of course, we need to import it. So import it like this. And now we call this file. And we can access the get theme method and set theme method. In our case, we need the set dark theme, and we already have the value passed in here. So we can just directly pass it to the method. Perfect. Now, one more step to finish, which is this change notifier will not know that the value of the theme is already changed unless if we add this line. So this notify listener will tell this change notifier that there is something changed, and this change notifier will tell the whole app that there's a value changed, which is in our case this dark theme value, which will affect our whole app. Now, one more step to finish. We need to manage and gather all things together. And the place to do that is the main.dart file. So I want you to know something about the providers. The providers are actually an inherited widget. And what inherited widget means is a listener. And in order to listen to something, you need to be the parent of that widget. So for example, if I want to listen to this home screen, the inherited widget must be above of this home screen. In our case, the highest widget is this material app. So the best place is to wrap this widget by a new widget, which is in our case will be the multi-provider. The multi-provider widget will be very helpful later on in the state management section, and it will be clear, a lot clearer than now. So do not worry about it if you don't understand it clearly now. Now it takes an important argument, which is the providers, and I will come to it soon. Perfect. Now we need to fetch the theme. So in order to do that, we need to initialize a new method to actually get the theme. So it will be a void, and I will name it get current app theme like this. And of course it's future. And in here we need to do something. So first things first, we need to initialize the theme provider. Of course, we need to import it, or it's being already imported. Perfect. So I will name it in our case theme change provider and put it equal to dark theme provider like this. And our app is not constant anymore, so we need to remove this. And in here, we need to use the initialized provider, and we need to access the set method, which is this one, and set our theme to the thing that it's being fetched from the user memory, user phone memory. So here's come the shared preference important. So we need to fetch from the shared preference. So how can we do this? We just call the theme provider and then call the dark theme preference like this and call get theme. So we are calling this variable in here to fetch the value from this method in here. So if the user already choose a value, it will be fetched using this method. Perfect. So I think it will become clearer now, but we need also to do more steps. So this method will not be called like this. We need somewhere to call it. And the best place in order to call it is somewhere called in state. But in our case, it's a stateless widget. So we need to convert it to a stateful widget in order to have access to the endState method. So what I mean, this method is only available for the stateful widget. And I suppose that you know what stateless and stateful widgets means. So now we call this method in here like this. And few more steps to be done. Delete this line. And we need to give this provider something. So initialize in here, change Notifier provider, and it takes this constructor in here. So do it like this. And then open the curly braces and we return our initialized theme provider. Just like this. Now, also, it will not work like this. We need to add one more widget, which is consumer widget. I'm not sure it will become clearer now, but later on in the course, I will use it and explain it in details in the state management section. So don't worry a lot about it. But in a short term, the consumer is being used for one widget, where only this widget need the passed value. So instead of initializing the notifier for the whole file, we just initialize it for one widget. So in our case, we just need to wrap this material by something called consumer, but I will choose actually a builder because it has builder function or argument. So it is like this, and I got an error because it takes in here 3 different arguments. And in here, it's the provider that you need to listen on. So I will name it in our case theme provider, and then a static child that will not get affected by this value. So now let's see what inside of this theme provider. So do like this. We don't have much, and this is because we need to specify the type of this consumer. In our case, it will be for this provider. So now if we check, we have a lot of methods in here. And in our case, we need to get the dark theme. And this is a Boolean. And this is stand for this getter that we initialize it and this theme provider in here. So we copy this and we paste it in here. And now our app is done. So I will cut the process and run the app again. And in the meantime, I will initialize something in here to allow the user to change the theme. So to do that, I will initialize something called, initialize in here something called switch list style. And it has some required arguments, which is the unchanged and the value. So as the value, we need to give it something, and for the unchanged method, we need to give it something. In our case, in here, you need to give it the Boolean value. It will become clearer soon. So open curly braces in here, and for the value, it's also a Boolean. If you put it false, for example, the value will be gone. Okay, now we need to access this theme provider in order to allow the user to change the different things. But now I will hit save now and see the changes in here. We have this. Okay, and as you can see, if I press here. So before that we continue, let me initialize the title for it. So in here, let's say title, initialize text, and I will name it as theme, hit save, and it appeared in here. And we need to actually add the icon for it. So you do like this, initialize the secondary, and for the icon, we can check the value of the theme and give it the icon depending on it. But for our case, I will just now use the icon light mode outlined like this. Hit save, and it appears in here. Perfect. Now, if I press on it, nothing will change, of course. So in here, we need to initialize the provider. And in order to initialize the provider, we need to say, for example, final theme state, and it will be equal to provider.off context, but let's import the provider first. So .off, and we need to give it the type, in our case, the dark theme provider, like this, and then we need to pass in the context here, like this. Now, if we call this value in here, you can access all the arguments that it is in it. For example, set dark theme, get dark theme, whatever you want. In our case, in here, we need to get the dark theme to change this icon, for example. So let's say get dark theme. And if this is dark, we need to show another icon, which is the dark mode outlined like this. Hit save. Nothing will change, of course, because this one is light for the moment. Now, in the onChanged method, we need to add the code to allow the user to change or switch between themes. In order to do that, we need to call also the theme state, and we need to call the set dark theme and put it equal to the value, just like this. Now hit save, press on it. Okay, it's changed, but something weird is happening. Okay, so it reverted only once, and it's because of this value in here. So the value should be the value of the theme state. So this value, just call like this, hit save, and now this one changed. I can switch between it. But later on, this might not work. It must be a stateful widget. So convert it to stateful widget and put this value in set state to force this value to be changed and apply the changes on the screen. So now, as you can see, this icon is being changed, and if I change it, everything is working perfectly. I will do a small recap now of how the application is working. So let's go to the main. We initialize this app in here, which is fetching the theme from the shared preference. So if the user already choose a value, the last chosen value will be fetched and applied. In here, we have this multi-provider that's getting the value of this theme change provider, and the theme change provider is coming from the dark theme provider. And since we have this change notifier and we have this notify listener, everything is listening and the changes will appear directly. So we also used this shared preference, which is this file, in order to save and fetch from the phone memory to show the last applied theme. So I hope that the explanation is clear enough for you, and see you soon in the next tutorial.